Good morning. Welcome to Chicago Collection's annual member meeting. And I'm going to have Jeannie advance our slide to our welcome. Thank you, Jeannie. Okay, so I'm Ellen Keith, and I'm the board chair of Chicago Collections Consortium, and I'm the director of research and access and chief librarian at the Chicago History Museum. And we are so excited to have Patty Swanson today. She is the founder of Chicago for Chicagoans. If you've taken any of their tours or seen any of their talks, they are excellent. And so we're so interested in hearing how she uses her organization to inform people about our wonderful city. We're going to share some accomplishments of our last year, and we're recording today's webinar, so it will be posted. So very big program as usual, and if you've attended them before with me leading, you know I tend to talk really fast to move us along. So next slide. Our land acknowledgement. Chicago Collections Consortium acknowledges and is grateful for the Native peoples who laid the foundation for the city of Chicago and for the diverse Indigenous nations that reside in Chicago today. When you visit our member organizations and when you experience Chicago's outdoor spaces, we invite you to join in offering respect and gratitude to the many Indigenous people that reside in the Chicagoland region as well as their ancestors. So as we've said, packed agenda. After Patty's talk, we've got some acknowledgement of members, some recognitions, remembrance, election directors, year review, explore, what's next, strategic plan, call for participation, and then adjournment. So moving on. Okay. Oh, it is my pleasure to introduce Patty Swanson. Patty founded Chicago for Chicagoans in 2016 with a mission to educate residents about the places they inhabit, creating lifelong bonds and a deeper understanding between people and their spaces. Chicago for Chicagoans believes in accessibility of information and conducts programming on a pay-what-you-can basis. Good things are happening in Chicago, and Chicago for Chicagoans is definitely one of those things. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give Jeannie a little second to switch over to my slides, which, I got a lot of photos, so had a little technical difficulty, but we're good to go. I just want to start by saying that when I got the call from Jeannie to present, I was a little starstruck, a little in awe. I've been a really early adopter to using your portal and your platform. So, I was like meeting a celebrity. I'm really, really, really thrilled to be here and honored to be presenting to you guys and telling you a little bit about what my organization does. Jeannie, you can actually go to the next slide. I'll start by talking a little bit about myself and my background. I'm an artist and an art historian. I graduated from School of the Art Institute of Chicago in 2015 with my degree in art history, but I spent the majority of my time there taking architectural history classes. That's really where I fell in love with Chicago and with the city as a whole and with its architecture. And that's also where I started giving walking tours. I originally was giving, prospective student tours for SAIC students. And then I got a job over the summer, my last 2 years of school, working for Wendella Boats, giving boat tours. And I also started volunteering with the Chicago Greeter program, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's a program of Choose Chicago that pairs residents, knowledgeable residents. You don't even have to be that knowledgeable. You just have to be a resident with tourists coming to the city with the goal of getting people kind of out of the loop and into the neighborhoods. And, the one thing that I always felt while I was giving boat tours is that tourists I couldn't get as deep into the history as I wanted to with tourists. You have to start from the beginning every time, so that was one thing. I distinctly have this memory of walking around Wicker Park with these ladies from Austin visiting, showing them the mansions along Hoyne. And, they're like, oh, fun, cool. But they just didn't understand the context of the neighborhood. And I just was like, man, I really wish this sort of program existed for Chicagoans, because Chicago is the tourism agency. They're like, you can't even sign up for a greeter visit if you have a zip code that starts with 606. So I was really seeing this need at the time. And feeling like the loop was overrepresented in our offerings. And, I really kind of I was itching a little bit to change something. At the same time, my first job right out of school was at Northwestern University Library in the conservation lab. I was made aware of the Chicago Collections Consortium very early on in 2016 because of my relationship to Northwestern Library. And I quickly dove in and started exploring things and all these things. It was really a perfect storm. I became really aware of the fact that I was a little too outgoing for conservation. And I also became aware of the depth of archival material held in our city beyond the public library. You know, the just volume of institutions, private, public, state, national, super local, that we have here in the city. And I really loved that this portal kind of give you access to all of them. And I'll talk more about that later. I have plenty of nice things to say about you guys. But at the same time, I had just kind of moved into the heart of Albany Park, the neighborhood on the northwest side of Chicago, right at the end of the Kimball Brown line. And I had told my grandma, who lives in Des Plaines, she's 98. I told her I moved to Albany Park, and she goes, "Oh, that's where your great grandfather and great grandmother had a bungalow. They lost in the Great Depression. And that's where your grandfather grew up." And I had no idea of any of that family history. And I was so delighted, so interested, so fascinated, because Albany Park it was very quickly my favorite neighborhood I'd ever lived in Chicago. So missing giving walking tours and just having discovered my family roots in Albany Park, I planned a tour and I threw up a couple of flyers on a couple of restaurant windows. I emailed the Chamber of Commerce, the North River Commission. They're amazing. Special shout out. Just connected with a couple of people, posted on Facebook. I was like, maybe I'll get a handful of people to come on this walking tour. DNA Info, now sort of Block Club Chicago, picked it up. And I very quickly had 300 people RSVP to my tour, which I obviously could not give a tour to 300 people. So I planned like 5 more the same weekend. I gave interviews. I got to be on WGN. I was just totally shocked. And I realized that I'd really hit a nerve and that I wasn't the only Chicagoan feeling like our neighborhoods were being a little bit overlooked by our tourism programming overall. Had a really well-timed quarter life crisis, quit my dream job, and went ahead and started a nonprofit. I was just young enough and just naive enough to think that was a great idea. And I really felt like I had latched onto something. And I really just, from the very beginning, was interested in exploring our neighborhoods in more depth with the demographic most interested in them. And that would be, of course, residents. You can go to the next slide there, Jeannie. So we were informally organized in 2016. This is actually a picture of me on my first tour ever of Albany Park. I have a lot of my photos are from that era. I was really excited trying to build up some images of my organization. So it's fun now to look back on these almost 10 years later and be like, wow, I still do the same thing. Again, from the beginning, the plan was to target locals, started in about June of 2016. And I really wanted to offer pay what you can programming as well. I really felt that the price of tours in Chicago was quite absurd, quite expensive. I mean, if you're taking a boat tour, which I'd been giving at that time quite recently, you're paying 40, 50 bucks, now even closer to 60. A lot of the walking tours, 25, 30, $40 were just way too expensive for me and my friends as art school graduates. And I knew that I couldn't be the only one saying, well, I live here. Why would I take a tour? I can't afford it. So the pay what you can programming aspect from the very beginning was very important because I felt like residents are sort of the hardest people to capture a little bit because they're like, well, I know stuff about this. What could you possibly teach me? So by doing pay what you can, it was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I was able to reach people who couldn't afford a walking tour, but I was also able to kind of entice in locals who thought, well, it's free. At least I'll check it out. And that's still representative of the mix of people that we get on our tours to this day. There's always somebody who's like, well, I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years. What could you possibly teach me? And it's like, well, something about the 1880s. But early on, again, another idea was to have passionate locals lead the tours. When you have locals on your tours, they're also, again, one of the hardest demographics because they know the most. And they're going to ask you these really nuanced, detailed questions. So I felt it was really important to have people with really strong connections to those neighborhoods leading those tours, and to fight back against something I call the people zoo effect, where you kind of parachute into a neighborhood with someone who doesn't live there. You walk around, you look at all the people, and then you leave. And I was really like, no, that's not the type of tours I want to lead. I want it to feel like you're taking a tour of your neighborhood with one of your neighbors. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. After my first tour of Albany Park, I started to partner with others. And at first, I was just badgering every single one of my friends into doing this. I was organizing a new tour every single month. I don't recommend that to anyone today. That is a murderous schedule that you can only do when you're 23 and working a part-time job at the same time. So I really don't recommend that schedule. I got burnt out very quickly. But I just have this photo up on screen of my friend Sam Prestigiacomo. I went to school with her at SAIC. She's a lifelong Chicagoan. She grew up in Norwood Park and spent a lot of time at Edgewater as a child, and then has lived there pretty much since we went to school together about 10 years ago. So she's one of the first people that I reached out to give tours with. She's now a professional guide at the Art Institute of Chicago. She's been giving history lectures and walking tours for 10 years now. So I really bit her with the tour guide bug. And she still leads our Edgewater tours today, which is her home neighborhood all these years later. And so that's a good example of one of those first people I reached out to that was kind of a friend, but has since become a professional tour guide. You can go to the next slide. The next thing that started happening to me is random strangers would reach out to me and say, hey, I have a body of expertise I'd like to show off. And that's how I met Erica Ruggiero, who is the preservationist who wrote the National Register of Historic Places nomination for the Central Manufacturing District down in McKinley Park in Bridgeport. She reached out to me. She said, I have all this knowledge. I want to share it. And we planned a tour of McKinley Park. Erica still leads our McKinley Park tours to this day. She's also now the president of my board of directors. So that was another good get. And you can go to the next slide. The other thing that I started happening to me was just referrals. People would be like, hey, I really think you should connect with this person. So a good friend of mine, Vitaly Vladimirov, he was like, you should meet this woman, Debbie Liu. Debbie, still our Chinatown tour guide to this day. She is a native Chinatown resident, lives in the South Loop today. And at the time, she was working for the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community. She now works for the city's Metropolitan Planning Council. She's a native Chinatown resident. She gives the best Chinatown tour you will ever take in your life. And again, I just, friend of a friend being like, hey, I think you should connect to this person. And so I got really lucky really early on with all these amazing people, but that still represents how we get a lot of our tour guides to this day, along with our tour guide training program, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we incorporated you can go back one actually, but I know that was a confusing pause. It's fine. We'll stay on this slide. So we incorporated as a 501c3 in 2017. It was pretty difficult for me. I had no experience starting a nonprofit, and the IRS will not help you figure it out. I worked a lot of part-time jobs, really was side hustling as a full-time job, but got really burnt out. So what we ended up doing was kind of forming down the line this volunteer co-op structure. So we're run today by volunteers. The one thing that's different from some other volunteer organizations is that we always have offered payment to our tour guides, and that's actually really important. One of the things that I heard giving boat tours was like, well, if you're getting paid for this job, you surely don't have enough passion for it, which I thought was absurd. I was like, no, I'm just a broke college student and I need to make money and I want to do it doing something I love. So from the very beginning, even though we don't charge our audience, we spend the majority of our operating costs paying our tour guides and our talent for their time, which I'm very proud of. Today, we offer tours in 37 different city neighborhoods. We also lead tour guide training sessions. I'll talk about all of that. And we also started a winter lecture series in 2017. So we do that at a bar in the winter. I tried doing winter tours. People did come, but it was a little much to be giving tours in the blizzards. So we moved inside in 2017. Our winter lecture series is actually what helped us during COVID. We went entirely virtual during COVID and have done a hybrid live and live stream model for our lectures ever since. It really helps us with accessibility and reach, and allowed us to kind of keep on trucking while we couldn't do tours during the pandemic. We ran scavenger hunts in 2021, which kind of allowed for more dispersed groups across the city, and returned to giving tours in 2022. You can go to the next slide. So the other thing that we did in 2021, rebuilding from COVID, it was like, all right, well, we need to kind of come back from the dead, reinvigorate our organization, get more people involved. So my friend Layla and I, Layla is a professional tour guide. She also sits on my board. She also has a full-time job doing something else. But she and I created Tour Guide 101 in 2021, and it's a free single day. It's about 4 hours educational curriculum that summarizes our years of experience building, designing, and offering neighborhood tours. We teach tour planning, research methodology, public speaking, entrepreneurial, and customer service skills. And we do so for free. We move around to different Chicago Public Library locations. Some of our alumni, I really like to talk about some of our famous alumni. Will Quam of Brick of Chicago, I taught him how to give tours. Allison Yates of Read and Run Chicago, taught her how to give tours too. And about 49 other people have participated in our Tour Guide 101 programs, which we do biannually, twice a year, as well as having last year adapted the series into a national program for volunteers leading tours for Hosteling International. So we're really proud of this program. It both allows us to bring new people into our organization and spread what we're doing and get more and more people out on the streets giving community-led walking tours. So if you go to the next slide, I'll just hit these really quickly. These just give you a quick glimpse of what's in our Tour Guide 101 curriculum. We talk about the tour guide spectrum. We talk about how it's important to be both style and substance. You can't just be an improv comic, and you can't just be a dry, boring textbook. You really want to go for somewhere in between. You can go to the next one as well. And this slide kind of gives you a quick overview of some of the things that we teach people. We teach people to collaborate with others. We talk about tour length. We talk about how to plan a route, what time of day to schedule your tour for. We talk about requiring registration, so 300 people don't RSVP to your free Facebook event. And we talk about handouts, which are a really effective sort of take-home piece for people coming to our tours. You can go to the next slide. Like I said, today we offer tours, walking tours in 37 different Chicago neighborhoods. We outgrew our original lecture venue and moved to the Bad Apple in Lincoln Park in 2025. This is the size of the crowd that we had this year at my lecture in February, which is amazing. We packed about 100 people into the room, which was so fantastic. By the numbers today, we have 22 tour guides, an additional 16 lecturers. All of them offered money for their hard work, though they don't all take it. You can go to the next slide. We're also heavily volunteer dependent. We have 13 tour volunteers this season. We're always building. We had another 19 people help with our beer tent at the Belmont Sheffield Music Festival, which is our largest annual fundraiser. We get to keep all the tips. We have a 5-person volunteer staff, including me, 4 board members who are highly engaged in our organization, and an entirely donation-supported annual operating budget of about $25,000. We are not funded by grants at all. I'd love to be funded by grants someday, but it's a lot of work to write a grant application. Our per person tip average, despite being pay what you can, is about $9 to $10 per person. So we've proved you can have your cake by paying your tour guides and eat it too by not charging your audience. Maybe I flipped that metaphor, but our largest operating expense, like I said, proudly over 1/3 of our budget is our talent. And I think that the stigma of nonprofit staff being supposedly this very small part of your budget is kind of crazy. Staff are how your programs operate, and you should always want to pay your talent to help you do your mission-oriented work. So we're really proud of that fact. And we really, truly, to this day, embody the spirit of for the people, by the people. So you can go to the next slide. I'm really excited to talk about our relationship to explore Chicago Collections and the Chicago Collections Consortium, because as I said, since 2016, we were early adopters to this portal and have been using it heavily ever since. One of the easiest and best ways I can kind of talk about how we use the portal is actually through imagery. I mean, if you want to go ahead, you can go to the next slide. All of our tours, we print these super low-tech binders with plastic sheets. Way better than an iPad. It doesn't matter if it gets rained on. It doesn't matter if it gets dropped. No problem. We print these binders out of historic photos for all of our tours. We don't have a ton of money to secure photo rights, so we're using it a lot of times on anything we can find, sort of understanding that we're not profiting from the work that we do. And we also think that these photos belong in the street, showing people the context of the past paired with the present. It's really important that collections like the Chicago Collection Consortium be free and accessible, because if these images just live in a box in an archive, no one is seeing them. And the other really beautiful thing is how digitized the collections are, because I have a handful of full-time professional tour guides in my ranks, but for the most part, Chicago for Chicagoans is run by volunteers with full-time jobs. I'm sitting at my wood flooring company job right now. I mean, we don't have all the time in the world to access archive collections between 8 and 4, Monday through Friday. So the fact that so much of what's in the Collection Consortium archives online is digitized is so important. It allows independent researchers, neighborhood locals, and passionate people with full-time jobs to access these archive materials with greater and greater ease every year, which is super, super important and really brings the past alive. The photos that are pictured here is actually our board member and Prairie Avenue tour guide, Amy, there on the left, showing images of mansions lost to time on Prairie Avenue. Really important that we have imagery of that, because so much of Prairie Avenue isn't there today. And then you have a picture of me holding up a binder on my Albany Park tour. You can go to the next slide. I actually paired a couple of things here to show you what we're talking about. So this is from the Chicago History Museum's collection, an image of George Pullman's mansion that is replaced by this modernist box today. So it's really important that we show this image on the street in that intersection to show people, what was there before. You can go to the next slide. This is an image from the Chicago Public Library of Von Steuben Senior High School that I show on my tours of Albany Park. It's actually the same high school pictured on Chuck Berry's album, Sweet Little 16. Not going to get into the scandal on that. You'll have to come to my Albany Park tours this weekend. But how important it is to pair these historic images with what's happening on the street today. You can go to the next slide. Here's some pictures of me giving tours. On the left, showing people images of North Park University when it was just a big building in the middle of empty fields. And myself and my board president, Erica, on the right there, showing people images of the Parisian Novelty Company in McKinley Park, the facility and the products that were made in front of the building that's now an empty storage warehouse, but is where those products were once made. You can go to the next slide. I also would like to just shout out, you guys, we use all the boring photos. Every single boring photo we actually love. And this is a great example. This is a 1985 image from the Chicago Public Library's Park District holdings of Jensen Park and Albany Park, documenting the condition of the playground equipment. But for me, I noticed the building right behind it, which is the Albany Park Hebrew congregation. It was an enormous synagogue with a progressive young Jewish population, built in 1923 and torn down in the late 1990s. And the reason I know it was torn down in the late 1990s is partially because of this playground equipment documentation. So researchers like me, when we're able to access these images, we actually can spot little things in the background that other people might miss. Today, this is a parking lot, sadly, but you can come on my West Albany Park tour this weekend and see the parking lot. If you want to go to the next slide. This is, again, another image of Sam Prestigiacomo showing off images on our Edgewater tour. And Olivia, who's actually a mutual connection between myself and Ellen. She's our Lincoln Park tour guide. She's an avid Chicago History Museum fan. And she talked this year about the Women's Christian Temperance Union at our at our lecture series and showed images of Fountain Girl from the Chicago History Museum's collection in her slideshow. And, you know, it was really amazing to have her be able to talk about that and have those images to accompany her talk. You can go to the next slide. The next one I have, again, more images that you think are kind of boring that we love. This is, again, from our Edgewater tour. We show a lot of these on our Edgewater tour. These are documentation of intersections that are held in the University of Illinois at Chicago's archives that really paints a story of Edgewater over time. And again, a lot of the ones in this area are of Sheridan Road before all the mansions were torn down, when you can see all these old cars on the street. And these images need, in my opinion, to be shown on this intersection to really have people appreciate how far we've come and to notice the differences between the past and the future. You can go to the next slide. I'm going to go ahead and sort of wrap up here. I'm coming to time, but the last kind of way, in addition to always teaching our tour guides, our potential tour guides at our Tour Guide 101 sessions about Explore Chicago Collections and the Chicago Collections Consortium, we also provide a comprehensive list of free research resources on our website, which include both links to the Chicago Collections Consortium and many of the library and archival collections that are part of the CCC. And you didn't have to tell us to put these on our website. We just did, because it's so important that when people come to one of our tours and they say, this is amazing, I want to know more, we're able to direct them to this massive list of free resources for people to look at. Again, the digitized nature of the collection is so important to those of us who can't make it in during Monday through Friday archive hours. I love the sophisticated hyper-local sort tools. I've never found any other platform that lets me sort by neighborhood, immigrant, or ethnic group or research topic, which is invaluable to doing research on Swedish immigrants in Andersonville or on immigrant journeys through time in Albany Park. It's also a great place to start researching, because again, it shows you everyone's kind of holdings in this one place, which allows us to use our small amount of time that we do have Monday through Friday to make sure that we're tailoring our research to the most appropriate collection that we can find. The other thing I really appreciate, the conditions governing access notes helps empower non-traditional and beginner researchers operating outside of academic institutions feel more welcome in those spaces, because they understand that, oh no, I can get into this archive. It actually tells me that it's open and I just have to email this person. So it does a really good job of breaking down barriers for new researchers to get into these archives and, again, take those materials out of the archives and into the streets. Chicago for Chicagoans believes in the accessibility of information, and we really thank you guys for sharing that belief with us. And you can go to the next slide. I can take some questions.
Questions for Patty? You are totally complimentary to us, both complimentary and complimentary. What a great marriage of our two organizations.
Well, my contact information is also on screen. So if you think of a question down the line, there is no email us link on chicagoforchicagoans.org that doesn't end up in my email inbox. So that's a really great way to research or reach out to me. You can email me anytime. Again, I'm just so honored to be here. This is really exciting. And I hope you guys know that the work that you're doing really does empower organizations like mine and all of our many researchers that are part of it.
Oh, wait, I've got a Q&A.
Oh boy.
Yes, yay, okay. Oh, these are great questions. Of course, so many of our resources are not digitized. How can we better make those available to the folks you work with?
Yeah, I mean, digitize them. No, I'm kidding. Get a grant to digitize them. But I would say that a great way that you can is to just get really, really, really specific about what is in your boxes. And I think, you know, obviously I understand not everything can be digitized, but I think when an independent researcher is able to know exactly what box that they're hunting for and exactly what is in that box, it allows us to use time in those archival collections most strategically. So, I mean, librarians are run the world. I know you guys have a ton to do, but the more specific that those box descriptions can be, the better. The amount that I've seen that are like notes and clippings, that doesn't tell me anything. You know, it might take me hours to go through that box. So the more specificity for those box descriptions, the better. That's the second best thing to digitizing for sure.
Mm-hmm. A couple more, Patty. This is not a question. You are awesome. We will be in touch.
Yeah, come take a tour.
Again, not a question. We've got tons of compliments. Not a question, but I must say, as a member of the team that first worked on Explore, this is our wonderful Tracy Seneca, it's a dream come true to see it used in this way.
Since the very beginning, I've been using it.
Oh, this is a great question from Mary Case, one of our founders. Is there some factor you'd like to search that isn't there now?
I think, no, I think it's perfect. I don't know. I'd have to really sit on that one. I'm sure if I spent enough time, I could come up with something. But I think, like neighborhood by neighborhood, the fact that you can search by groups of people versus roads versus the built environment, like I have no notes.
This is a real shot in the arm for us. I'm thrilled. Another question, do you coordinate with outside organizations for
Absolutely.
tours?
We're of a new generation of researchers that really believes in collaboration and not competition. I mean, our tours are free. I want people to take as many possible tours across the city as possible. Many of our tour guides lecture for other organizations, give tours for other organizations. I welcome that. To me, there's no such thing as too many walking tours in the city of Chicago. Chicagoans have a boundless appetite for the history of their own city and especially of their own communities. So we would love to work with absolutely anyone that wants to work with us. The only thing that we do is kind of try to shuffle people into our tour guide one-on-one program a little bit, or at least do a sort of one-on-one session with them, just so that people understand the types of tours that our organization gives, because you do have to carve out your a little bit of a niche. And we always want to make sure that our tours are equitable, inclusive. And I think that if you've been a tour guide before, sometimes you've been told, like, don't talk about things that aren't there anymore, or don't talk about controversial history. And our approach to those things is very different. And we're not charging people up front. So we're kind of like, if you don't like it, you can leave. And we allow our tour guides to be opinionated and to be passionate about their communities and to share that with others. So we try to coach people a little bit from the outside that want to give tours with us, just to make sure they understand we're a little bit different. But ultimately, we love working with other people, and that's what we're all about. So send us all of your tour guides, especially anyone that is interested in giving a tour on the South and West Side. We're always trying to build up those areas of our repertoire. Would I consider giving tours outside of the suburbs? Sorry, I just saw that one. No, there's 228 neighborhoods in Chicago. I got enough job security. I don't need to go to the suburbs. But I welcome you to start Evanston for Evanstonians.
Oh, great. So yeah, so Patty's doing Q&A too. So yes, Albany Park, fist pump.
Yes. Well, I'm doing Albany Park tours this weekend, so we still have some tickets left. Come take one.
And Natalie Wheaton, archivist at Rush, I'd love to put together a tour of the Illinois Medical District.
We would love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Please reach out. My contact information is on the screen. We'd love to do the medical district. Like I said, the South and West Side are our organizational intent to move as south and as west as we can. We really end up getting a little bit less of a turnout on South and West Side tours. Our demographic is predominantly North Side based. That's kind of the truth of the city, sadly. But it works out really well when we are able to give South and West Side tours, because maybe we have a few less people go to Hegwish, but we have a lot of people go to Edgewater. And so the maths out. Our North Side tours subsidize our South and West Side tours a little bit, as they should.
Exactly. Oh, awesome. Okay, great questions, great comments. Patty, thank you so much. What a treat.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your annual meeting. I do have to get back to my full-time job, but I would love to talk to you guys at any point in time. Please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, we are moving back. Okay. Thank you, Jeannie. And thank you, Patty. So
Yeah.
back into our annual meeting, we're going to give a big thank you to our governing members, and we call out University of Illinois at Chicago, for which we have an agreement to share our portal manager, Jessica Brody Frank, and DePaul University, which hosts our executive director, Jeannie Long, with whom both of whom we could not do without. We also have a wonderful website administrator, John Zaplicki. I'm sorry, John, I'm probably bungling his name. But who has worked so tirelessly for us as we, like everything else, was spammed and botted, and so Cloudflare got added because of John. So thank you, John. Okay, next slide. You can tell, besides our governing members, we have a wealth of wonderful associate members, and they really represent, as Patty noted about Chicago, the diversity of Chicago. So they've come from all types of institutions, as Patty also said. I'm really still vibing off of this talk. Private, public, museums, small archives, that kind of thing. So we're so glad to have everyone who has wanted to reach out to us and join our organization. And we grow our corporate partnerships, University League Club of Chicago, the Henry Crown Archives, Cubs, and Ozinga, our most recent corporate member. And welcoming our newest members, we've got the Leather Archives and Museum and Rosalind Franklin University, and we really look forward to adding their collections into the portal soon. Could not do this without our generous supporters. Very grateful to Driehaus, Donnelly, Mellon, Wintrust, the Illinois Arts Council, and Terra Foundation. Our board supports us, and we've got an anonymous donor, and everyone answers the call. We put out our Giving Tuesday. So thank you all so much. And let's go to some recognitions. Our board of directors, Chris Brown, Devin Savage, Leora Siegel, Marianne Ryan, Rachel Kotarski, Rhea Ballard-Thrower, Rob Karpinski, Robin Hofstetter, Stephen Harris, Will Hansen, and Shimo Wang. Thank you all so much for your participation. This has been a great board to work with. And committee chairs. Catherine Ecker is rotating off our Cooperative Reference Committee as co-chair, as she's been promoted at University of Chicago. And so, Catherine, thank you so much for your service. And our committees. This is all, as Jeannie points out in our various meetings, she is a staff of 1.5, herself and our halftime portal manager. And the rest is all volunteers. And so we are so grateful. If you have encouraged your staff, encouraged your colleagues to join a committee, we are so fortunate that they've done that. And we ask you to continue encouraging them to do so. And we will just take a moment in remembrance to acknowledge passing of our colleagues across the community. Thank you, Jeannie. We'll go to the next slide. And now we've got the election of directors. We have joining us this year, Maria DiLorenzo, who is general counsel here at the Chicago History Museum. And we are going, yes, we'll get a ballot, sorry. At a momentary brain freeze. Okay, our year in review. Again, this is where I talk super fast because, as usual, a really full year. Next slide. Making History Come Alive Through Words Poetry Contest. This started in 2022 as a celebration of our 10th anniversary. This is the 4th year we've done it because it was so fantastic. We had to do it each year, and each year it gets better and better. Go to our website, read the poems of these young students. They are amazing. We are so fortunate to hear them. They've been fantastic, and they take their inspiration from things they find and explore, and they make you look at these photos or archival collections in a new way. And I think the arts are going to save us. That is my comment. The arts will save us. These young poets will save us. No pressure. Next slide. Our partnerships. We always like to partner wherever we can. So we have always liked Chicago for Chicago and like-minded organizations. So Art Design Chicago, Chicago Architectural Biennial, Chicago Cultural Alliance, the Caxton Club, our sister consortium, the Black Metropolis Research Consortium. These are all great partnerships that we've had over the years and we continue to partner with. So many presentations this year, which has been fantastic. So we'll talk about those. Let's see. And CCC on the move. We're very fortunate. Jessica Brody-Frank has been tireless in presenting at conferences and getting us out there to all of these different organizations and internationally. So over 7 conferences this year. And as we've undertaken more conference presentations, our international audience has grown by 10%, which is fantastic. Okay, ask us, Chicago Collections Cooperative Reference Committee. We get no question too big or too small. This is a great group that works very hard. Over 175 inquiries related to all facets of Chicago history. And so we think, as serving as a member of that committee, everyone on this committee, thank you so much. It's a lot. Next slide. Okay, we've got some member workshops coming up. Metadata Hopper, that is the back end of Explore. We had member workshops and then we have some upcoming. So anyway, we've had workshops throughout last fiscal year, upcoming June 24th. We also like to hold professional development workshops. We did AI on December 4th and digital preservation on May 29th. Public lectures, we really like to partner with people. So again, as we said, so creating and preserving disorder, Royko Daly and the 1968 DNC last August with CPL. This was a great discussion with Chicago Covenants with Maura Fennelly and LaDale Windling. We did on Zoom. I'll pause for a moment just to say that really, again, Patty's talk resonated so much because of COVID, they pivoted to Zoom. We did the same and we've been on Zoom ever since. And that means all of these wonderful public lectures can be attended by anyone all over the world, which is fantastic. Okay, next slide. Mapping Indigenous Chicago at the Newberry. Newberry is a founding member of CCC. David Spadafora, the then president, and Mary Case from UIC got together and, the result is this wonderful organization we have now. And so we're always grateful to partner with the Newberry on their programs. Including another public lecture, Chicago Public Library, another governing member, political collections. Next slide, discussion with Chicago's new directors. That's probably our 4th or 5th time doing this. Always popular. We always welcome our new directors and get them involved in what we're doing. More Newberry, Indigenous people in the Chicago Portage. This was in person, Kate Coker, but also recorded. Kate Coker, We Are Each Other's Harvest, Gwendolyn Brooks, and the formation of the Black Literary Canon. And anytime we do a digital exhibit, we do like to talk to the curators of the exhibit. So a snapshot of Chicago's art fairs and coincidentally enough, Old Town Art Fair this weekend. So please go take a look at this digital exhibit. It's fantastic. And then with the artists of the art fairs, the impact and importance of Chicago art fairs and festivals, a discussion with Chicago artists. Lots of conversations with our members and their individual staff. So we had a conversation with the Women in Leadership Archives of Loyola University of Chicago. And then another public lecture, Dr. Nicole Brown, We Are Each Other's Business. And this was held at the University League Club in person, but also recorded. And then our wonderful Rachel Cole, who runs all of our social media, and is the curator and head of Northwestern Transportation Library because she doesn't have enough to do. So that was a conversation with Rachel. And then again, partnering with Chicago Public Library from the archive, Chicago History Through Photographs. CPL again for the archives, preserving your family history. Our governing members give us so much. We are so grateful. And our flagship, why we're all here, Explore. Sorry, as I talked super quickly, I breezed through my notes. Okay, so explore. I'll go to the next slide, Jeannie. Look at these stats. So it grows and continues to receive steady engagement despite our site outages. We had outages in October of 24 and February of 25. Cloudflare, as I mentioned, the implementation helped maintain a steady access. We saw a 6.5% increase in individual users while experiencing a 50% decrease in return users. We won't talk about that. This last year had the largest percentage of new users to Explore, averaging 90% first-time users. They came from 167 countries, though 30% still originated from the Chicagoland area, and a big jump in individual site views up to 37%. And the top search in Chicago was Jane Addams. Awesome. And look at these stats just rising over time. So our reporting is reliant on the Google Analytics platform, and this comes with some issues we want to highlight in terms of how our data is reported and shared. If you look at a graph of our users and page views since launching in 2016, you will see two areas of growth. There's a hole in our reporting with no information from Q3 and Q4 of 2021. That's due to an upgrade in the Google Analytics platform that accidentally unlinked our site. We realized this issue in early 2022 and we were able to reconnect for accurate reporting. However, in 2022, Google Analytics changed to Google Analytics 4, and the way analytics were reported changed. The Google Analytics algorithm is now steered by event-based data collection model as opposed to original session-based data collection. And you can see, oh, sorry, Jeannie, can we go back one moment? Stats over time, excuse me. There we go. Thank you. Besides changes to Google Analytics, it's also important to note that from Q2 2020 to Q2 2021, most cultural heritage and citizen science organizations say usage numbers explode, averaging on a 7-fold increase in usership. This is due to COVID closures, as we can imagine. Unprecedented ability to create digital content for a captive audience. This is important to highlight because the major change in our statistics from Q2 2021 Q1 2022 was likely impacted by the return to pre-pandemic levels of engagement that the Association of Science and Technology Centers reported occurred across online sites due to fatigue and competition. So yeah, we're familiar with the fatigue. This year, we saw our global reach grow by over 10% with 167 countries, as mentioned. And again, but 30% still originate from Chicago, perhaps 15% of those from Chicago for Chicago. So we're so excited that they love us so much. So yes, we're international, but we're also hyper local. Next slide. So what is new in Explore? Over 150 new images added. This new image from the Chicago Public Library and 50 new finding aids. Assets from North Park University, Evanston History Center, and the Ukrainian National Museum joined Explore this year. 2026, what is next? We know this is a challenging year. We continue to want to grow our momentum, even though funding cuts continue. We know that we are stronger together, and we've been on a strong trajectory of increasing members, not decreasing members, since the pandemic. Next year, keep an eye out for new digital exhibits and related programs, and know that all of our digital exhibits are accompanied by a teacher's resource guide on topics supporting grades 6 through 12. Explore, this is very exciting, and so many people have been working behind the scenes. So we are actively working on upgrades to this flagship project. We have spent the last 13 months in conversations with our member organizations and the American Eagle digital marketing firm to identify pathways forward that ensure stability, security, and support for digital collections access. The Systems Development and Analysis Committee has been essential in this progress. Thank you so much. And they've come to the conclusion that we need to migrate from XTF, which we currently use, to an archival management system. After three opening listening sessions, and 2 database demonstrations, the committee is currently evaluating what American Eagle suggested, Islandora. As a consortium with libraries, museums, and nonprofits, we know that we have many different cataloging standards, and we want to ensure that we create a system that works for all. Plans for testing will wrap up over the summer, and fall 2025 is targeted for a selection of a platform and beginning plans for migration. And migration itself will be a multi-year process, as anyone who has migrated knows. Our strategic plan, this is our roadmap for efforts as we focus on enhancing public access and engagement with Chicago-focused collections, foster and support a strong, involved community of members in the public, and sustaining and continuing to grow an effective, efficient, forward-looking organization. I really want to thank our board and our committees and our members for the dedication shown in supporting these objectives. Upcoming member workshops, we've got a metadata hopper workshop on June 24th. Call for participation. We're always looking, kind of like Patty's organization. Want to join us? So join a committee, multiple committees, and they can also be in whatever your interest. So programming, membership, communications, development, cooperative reference, digital resources and collections committee, user support and assessment committee. Next slide. Share with us, share us with your friends, excuse me. Blue Sky, we migrated off of Twitter. Blue Sky is where we are now. E-news from our homepage, our portal, Facebook, and Instagram. Please join our social media networks and stay connected with us. And questions. Look at me with 9 minutes to spare. It's because I'm a super fast talker. Let's see if we have questions. We have some continuing, okay, some great questions. So following up, we have a thank you. I'm sure that was to Patty from Ozinga. Laura Lorenzana, thank you, Laura. Evanston History Center notes that Evanston neighborhood tours can be found at the website for Evanston History Center. That sounds great. Hey, we had somebody from Luxembourg who says, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. And here's a really good question. Are the Trump regime funding cuts to arts and humanities impacting CCC operations or projects? Yes and no. We have received funding from Illinois Humanities, which is, Jeannie's on mute. And if I'm going to bungle this, I'll ask her to take herself off mute and correct me. But I believe a large percentage of their funding was from NEH. So that does impact us. I will say this, Jeannie, who is on mute, is the most tireless worker in terms of getting grants. We are fortunate that we have not depended solely on government grants. We've made attempts. We tried with NARA, and then the bottom fell out and heard back. Person who Jeannie heard back from was not the person she'd been in touch with, and that person she'd been in touch with no longer worked there. So I mean, this is, not to minimize this. This is devastating. We are fortunate that we have donations, we have member dues, and Jeannie applying to grants 7 days a week. Other questions? Okay. Unless there's anything else. Oh, wait, I got one more. Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, Tracy, sorry. Yes, Tracy Seneca at UIC notes that CC members who digitize materials have been impacted by grant cuts. That does have an indirect impact. Yes. Yes, we are part of, we are stronger together, and we are part of all of our members. So yes, that does have an impact. So these are tough times. I do believe one of the things about our members is we are so committed to this organization, and what we do at our own institutions that we funnel through this organization brings our own institutions to the surface. I say this with great confidence from the Chicago History Museum. Our material is just doubled in impact by being discoverable through the Explore Chicago Collections portal. So we're going to continue and stay the course, and we are a CCC member for life.